Okay, this is going to be a little different. This is going to be our first video where I'm lonely. Just a little lonely. This is the first video where I'm not going to stream it. I was just going to read like 5 chapters. I'm just chill today. Kind of relax. Just kind of to not have too much pressure. I'm going to just take it slow today. So with that being said, this should be a 0 stall read through. Unless I start talking to myself or some crazy thing and I'm hearing the mad ravings here in the room. But I don't think that's going to happen. So if you like what you are going to see, and if you guys are excited to witness greatness, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Because today is going to be a crazy milestone. I know I'm not streaming it, but you know what? I'm gonna take this moment for myself because I've accomplished so much with all of you beautiful, loving people. We're going to hit the big 4-digit number, man. We're going to hit chapter 1000. That being said, chapter 997 is called. I have to stall because I'm not on the chapter. What? Wait, chapter 997. I'm scrolling down. It's called Gambling God Dwayne. Okay, awesome. All right, chapter 997. What did I put? I put 9,957. I gotta fix that. There you go. That looks a lot better. The core rules of Texas Hold'em were very simple. It was to use 2 whole cards and 5 community cards to form a hand, and within a 5-card combination, whoever had the biggest hand won. And the community cards were dealt in 3 phases. The community cards to form the flop in the first phase, a 4th community card to call the turn in the second phase, and a 5th community card called the river. In the third phase, each phase allowed players to fold, check, call, or raise. This continued until everyone was done, or until one person didn't fold. Klein fiddled with the chip in his hand as he divined the existence of any lucky instances within the next few rounds. However, he was unable to tell which exact round it was. After all, it was only a quick and simple divination with average effects. Using this method to play with ordinary people and low sequence beyonders wouldn't be a problem as long as the correct strategy is used, but it definitely inadequate against, but it's definitely, if I mispronounce things, I'm not going to have chat to rely upon. So this is going to be us. Full 1000% focus right here. But it's definitely inadequate against demigods. It's already quite a challenge to defeat a mid-sequence beyonder. Must I close my eyes to each round and do a complete dream divination? If that were the case, Dwayne Tauntus might end up with the title Sleeping Gambling God. That's a pretty badass title. Klein sighed inwardly. He continued watching around play out as he sat by the side. Wow, I cannot read even when I'm off stream. Wow. And I'm always over here. It's chat that distracts me, and that's why I mispronounce so much. But it's not, man. It's just me. It was really me this whole time. At present, he had already lost a big blind and a small blind when it was his turn. At this moment, Klein noticed one point. The MI9 Deputy Director, Conis Kilgore, had lost 20 pounds to Admiral Amiris. A successful bribe, Admiral Amiris should be able to tell that Conis is using his power as a Baron of Corruption, but he might not know that this MI9 Deputy Director is a demigod. The next round will be interesting, Klein jolted to attention as the new round began. He didn't check his whole cards. Wait, he's not even checking his cards? He didn't check his whole cards with the croupier. I assume that's the dealer, right? We talked about that yesterday. It's the dealer. When the dealer handed him 2 new cards, instead he placed the middle chip he was playing with his hand onto his whole card, taking on the stance of not planning to look at them. After 2 people folded, the stern and old-fashioned Amiris Revdelt casually took a look at his whole card. After counting 5 pounds worth of chips, he threw it into the middle of the table. Having raised the stakes without guarding any suspicions, another person folded as much called. Right on the heels of that, Conis Kilgore, who had an unyielding personality, raised the stakes. Throwing out a total of 20 pounds, Calvin confirmed this whole card once again before calling. After one last person folded, Dwayne Dantes didn't do an actual count. He grabbed a handful of chips and threw it out. The dealer, who was in charge of counting the chips, glanced at it before precisely announcing Dwayne's actions. 20 pounds call. I thought it would be 50 pounds. From the looks of it, I'm still not very used to these chips. The white sideburn Dwayne Dantes, with an outstanding temperament, said with a laugh. However, he didn't add on an additional 30 pounds. At this moment, no one made a move. It was Amiris Revdelt's turn again. This Admiral didn't even glance at the remaining players, picked up 5 10-pound chips. He threw them out. Another raise. He didn't show any perturbations in his emotions, acting as though he was ordering a cup of black tea. However, this indescribable sense of dominance and the act of repeatedly raising the stakes pre-flop pre-flop made the mood at the table freeze. Such situations often imply that Adam Ramirez had excellent hole cards. Perhaps there was a pair of aces on a pair of kings or an ace of the kings. Mach decided to fold. Quinis Kilgore rubbed his high-nosed bridge and glanced around with dark blue eyes before saying, call. Colonel Calvin confirmed his cards again. After 10 seconds of hesitation, he chose to fold. Dwayne Dantes touched the middle chips on his 2-hole cards and smiled. Call. After a round expressing their intentions, there were only 3 players for the round. Then the dealer flipped the 3 community cards in the middle of the table for the flop. Two of spades, 9 of hearts, king of clubs. Wait, spades, clubs? No. Oh my god, I'm forgetting my symbols. The person who was up first was Adam Ramirez Rivdelt. He leaned forward slightly and said in a demeaning manner, 50 pounds. He had immediately raised the stakes to 50 pounds. Mach, Calvin, and company included those who weren't... I'm sorry, do I have the music repeating? No, I don't have it repeating. I just realized it's a long song. Match, Calvin, and company, including those who weren't in the game, felt stifled for some baffling reason. Conis Kilgore trembled slightly, but he ultimately grabbed 50 pounds and threw it out. Dwayne Dantes glanced at the deputy director of MI9, completely unfazed by the pressure. He said with a smile, call. Upon hearing this, Calvin turned his head and nodded at Dwayne Dantes with his deep blue eyes that resembled a nighttime lake, indicating his approval. From his point of view, Adam Ramirez domineering stance didn't affect the person who came to lose money. At this moment, the red-vested croupier revealed the 4th card of the turn, 9th spades. There were 3 spades, increasing the chances of a flush tremendously. I don't know what's a flush. A flush tremendously. However, Adam Ramirez still didn't hesitate. He calmly pushed a stack of chips 100. I feel like if I knew how to play Texas Hold'em, I'd be so into this chapter. But I don't know how to play. I know how to play 21. Whoever gets closest to 21 wins, or whoever gets 21 wins. Conis Kilgore's fingers tapped on his whole cards, showing his lack of confidence, but ultimately he chose to call. Dwayne Dantes glanced at this deputy director once again and maintained his warm smile. Call. At this point in time, he had yet to see his whole cards, making Calvin somewhat worried. He believed that such an act was going overboard, a clear act of throwing money away. It wasn't something Adam Ramirez, who was relatively conservative, might find acceptable. At this moment, the red-vested croupier revealed the final card, the river. 2 of clubs. As such, the community cards took form. 2, 9, king, 9, 2. I'll just say that, just to make it quick. 200 pounds, Adam Ramirez pushed a pile of metal chips with an extremely domineering attitude. Conis Kilgore took a deep breath before pushing 2 stacks of chips, 500 pounds. This amount of money was half of his purported annual salary. Is he trying to bluff? Calvin and Mach exchanged looks, believing that Brigadier General Kilgore had made it too obvious, making it easy to see through him. Unless that's what he wants people to think. One had to know that when playing Texas Hold'em, apart from doing risk management, probability calculations, it also involves psychological battles most of the time. But in terms of body language expression or the style used for raises, they made it easy to expose one's hidden cards. Of course, good players could also use these details to deliberately misdirect their opportunity. Dwayne Dantes sized up Quinis Kilgore before he left, then, like the previous few times he said, call. Ramirez raised his hand, prepared to push all the remaining chips to pressure his opponents into fold. At this moment, he suddenly paused. His deadpan expression wore a look of solemnity. After a few seconds of silence, he calmly said, call. At this point, the whole cards could be revealed to compare to each other's hands. Adam Ramirez flipped his card first. It was an ace of spades and 10s of spades. It formed the flush with the card. What's a flush, man? It formed a flush with 2, king, and a 9. It was a rather high-ranking... It was a high-ranking hand with the only one bigger than it being a full house. I assume full house is the best card. 4 of a kind, straight flush, and royal flush. Okay, those are it. It's your turn. Ramirez then urged Kunis. Queen... I can never pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Let me just text the speech. Conis? Queenis.
Conis first flipped.
Conis. Like Conan. Conis. Conis first flipped open a single card, King of Diamond. It made 2 pairs and the King and 9 from the community cards. Following that, he picked up his second whole card. At this moment, the remaining poker card and the red-vested croupier ended blurred pa. The whole card was flipped open, revealing itself 9s of spades. What Mach and company exhaled, hardly believing their eyes. This meant that Conis Kilgore had attained a full house, 9 over the Kings. It was bigger than a flush. Sorry about that. Full house. Conis looked at the mirrors and said with a smile. Then he turned to look at Dwayne Dantes. You can reveal your cards. I'm also very curious as to what my cards are. Dwayne Dantes smiled. He picked up the middle chips and he placed it down on the card, and he very casually flipped the 2 whole cards. What? What is it? Calvin and company rubbed their eyes. Dwayne Dantes' whole cards were a very weak pair, 2 of hearts, 2 of spades. There happened to be a very small pair in the community cards, 2 of spades, 2 of clubs. They formed a 4 of a kind, the smallest rank when it came to a 4 of a kind, but it was higher ranked than all full houses, so he won. Praise the lady, Dwayne Dantas drew the crimson moon across his chest in a pleasant surprise, looking as though he had never expected that. An interesting round indeed. Amiris was taken aback for a moment before he gently clapped. Konis Kulgor gave Dwayne Dantas a deep look back and said with a laughing sigh, I never expected the final winner to be you. Me neither. Maybe he's just that lucky. Maybe he just has fate on his side in this moment. Klein wiped a smile from his face as he inwardly grumbled, It's only right that I win over the 2-year. I'd lose control of the spot if somebody told me that, and I'm gambling money. On the other hand, Admiral Ramirez enjoys pursuing others and doesn't really rely on his Beyond powers to cheat. As for you, you placed your focus and Beyond powers on Admiral Ramirez, thus ignoring me. On the other hand, the one playing cards with you is actually named Winner in Uni. I'm sorry, is he making Winner play? The one playing cards with you is actually named Winner Uni. Oh, without even looking at his whole cards, it was obvious that he was relying solely on luck. Got it. He's having him play in his stead. At this moment, he placed the chip on his hold cards. Klein had already swapped positions with Uni as they switched faces with each. Oh, okay. They switch faces with each other, and that's why he's Dwayne technically, but he has his luck. Although Colonel Calvin had gotten him to deliberately lose 1,000 plans, Klein decided to win a killing after he saw Konis Kulgor. This wasn't because he couldn't bear to part with the money. Instead, his main motive was to garner the attention of MI9 Demigod. He wanted to get familiar with him and build relationships. Only by doing this could Klein have an opportunity to obtain intelligence from Konis Kulgor and even carry out an assault on him. After all, he was a demigod. It's going to be good. To deal with him in backland requires sufficient care and caution. He would rather give an operation if he lacked the confidence to guarantee a kill or lure him away from backland. Otherwise, he was bound to expose himself, end up being surrounded by demigod and even angels in backland. In the subsequent rounds, Klein won and lost different rounds. In the end, not only did he keep 1,000 pounds in chips, but he had even won nearly an additional 1,000 pounds. During this process, Calvin had gestured to Dwayne Dantas to lose, but he was left stupefied by the latter's ridiculous good luck that left him undefeated. After the game came to an end, a person walked over to Dwayne Dantas with a smile. Konis Kulgor. Oh, he's mad. He's mad that he's won so much, right? Chapter 998 is called Establishing Relations. Okay, let's keep reading. All right, next chapter. With the dark blue eyes, Konis Kulgor, who had crew-cut hair, which was seldom seen among members of high society, held a cup of champagne as he walked up to Dwayne Dantas. He said with a smile, "You have great luck today. You also have plenty of courage." If he's referring to me merely folding after receiving a bribe, with me rather losing a big blind, that's not luck but knowledge. As for the other times, playing cards with all of you has pretty much drained all of Uni's recently accumulated good luck, so he lost it. Klein swirled the cup with a pale golden alcohol in his hand and said with a laughing sigh, "For a person who doesn't care about the outcome, there's naturally nothing to fear." Huh? Praise the lady. He was using Lowen-style euphemism to indicate that he was mainly here to lose money and that his good luck was all thanks to the blessings of a deity. It had nothing to do with himself. Konis hadn't lost much tonight, approximately 100 to 200 pounds. Okay, that's nothing. And today's perspectives in Volume 5, right? Although this was already a considerable amount when compared to his purported salary. To Brigadier General, Deputy Director, MI9, a heady demigod, his salary was most trivial part of his income. Therefore, he didn't mind it. He shook his head with a smile. Humans often have no way of seeing through the arrangement of fate. There's a lot of fate in this chapter. You are an interesting person. It's a pleasure to meet you. His final sentence was both a form of praise and also a part of formalities. It indicated that their conversation was ever. However, Klein had acted all night to equate himself with the demigod of Black Emperor Pathway. So how could he give up? He first replied, It's my pleasure as well. Then he asked in a seemingly random manner, Your Excellency, are you familiar with the manners in the Backland suburbs? It's best if they come for a forests for hunting. According to the information Klein had received from Miss Justice, Konis Kulgor didn't enjoy holding banquet balls or salons at his place. Neither did he accept invitations on such matters. It was unknown if it was a problem with his character or due to his job. He had very simple hobbies. First, he enjoyed smoking cigars, especially Chiffian cigars from East Balham's McNent, recognized as the best cigars in the world. Second, he enjoyed playing cards, especially Texas Hold'em. Third, he enjoyed hunting. He often headed through Backland suburbs during autumn and winter. He even headed to Alwa County or East Chester County for hunting. We haven't heard of Alwa County in a while. Klein was already planning on buying a manor, and expenditure meant solely to integrate himself into high society. He hadn't made any decisions yet, but I'm going to skip the music because I realize the song is repeating. So we'll loop this song next. Invite his MI9 deputy director to hunt in the suburbs over an enjoyable weekend. Oh, I skipped a sentence. He hadn't made any decisions yet, but after meeting Conus Kilgore today, he had suddenly added his request in a bid to garner his interest. When the time came, he could even invite this MI9 deputy director to hunt in the suburbs over an enjoyable weekend. He could then seek out an opportunity to take action. Conus Kilgore drank a mouthful of champagne and said, after some thought, I hope you take note of it. If there's nothing suitable, I'll send someone over. Buckland Street, right? Yes, someone will inform you there. Thank you very much. Klein earnestly replied. At the same time, he pitied his former valet Richardson, who had now become an assistant butler. This young man who wished to better himself recently went out early in the morning and returned late at night. He had been gathering information about matters in Backland suburbs, filtering out those that met the requirements and the ones which were on sale. He had been personally visiting them with a bid to list down the options, which were all flawless. He didn't wish for his employer to spot something he fancied, only to find out that it wasn't for sale, or that the actual conditions were far worse than what was described. And after Klein suddenly changed his request, all the work that Richardson had done was undoubtedly made useless. The all-evil Party A and the contracts always change their requirements and requests. Yes, after this is done, I'll get Tanja to raise his annual salary to by £5. As an assistant butler, he should naturally earn more than his time as a valet. £5, it was gone in just like in 1 or 2 raises in today's game. Richardson's annual salary is only enough to play a few rounds of Texas Hold'em, and then he's out. Klein sighed inwardly when he sensed eyes looking at him. He directly looked back and realized that it was Admiral Ramirez Revdelt. This old-fashioned, stern, middle-aged man nodded gently and retracted his gaze. He had no intentions of communicating with Dwayne Dantes, nor did he get anyone to arrest this unfamiliar beyonder. After all, he was considered a working partner of the military, and it was rare for a merchant and adventurer with wide connections to be able to obtain a potion. At this moment, Colonel Calvin and Member of Parliament Monch walked over to Dwayne Dantes with wine glass in hand. Ooh, okay, connoisseur. What happened? Calvin asked with an exasperated and suppressed voice. As Dwayne Dantes had won nearly £1,000, he and Monch had to change their strategies to prevent Admiral Ramirez from losing any money. They went from a tight strategy to an unrestrained one. They felt quite the pinch from losing several hundreds of pounds each. As such, adding to everyone's losses, Admiral Ramirez had won a total of nearly £300. With regards to this, Klein spread his hands. I didn't even look at my hold cards, and between the lines, he meant that this was simply the blessings of some deity that controlled luck. At this moment, the deity's angels in secret existence who had authority in the fate domain included, but were not limited to, the Evernight Goddess, the full snake of Mercury, Will Oswaldton, Pelazaros, Blasphemer Amon, and Snake of Fate Ouroboros. Wow, that's a lot. This is really such a vexing manner, Monch said with a bitter smile while shaking his head. Calvin and I don't even dare to return home after we've lost. They had roughly lost about half their purported annual salary. Dwayne Dantes, with great sideburns, revealed a surprised look. When did you guys lose? He then pointed at the pile of chips at his seat. I just happened to retain the £1,000 I bought in the beginning. The rest are yours. Isn't that so? Calvin and Monch were taken aback as they exchanged looks. Then they revealed smiles. We must have counted wrongly due to the anxiety. Calvin gave an approving nod. Klein laughed and immediately changed the topic. He then began looking at supper that was placed on the coffee table beside him. City of Silver, in the spire of one of the Twin Towers, Derek Berg once again met the chief of the 6-member council, Colin Iliad. You said that you have something you would like to ask me about. Colin, who had quite a number of old scars on his face, calmly asked the youth who wasn't considered too tall. Derek bowed and replied frankly, yes, your excellency. In the advancement for Priest of Light, I need pure darkness, but once I do it, it would be extremely dangerous. I'm wondering if there's any other solutions. Colin Iliad listened seriously before nodded. You have to confirm one point. It is pure darkness or darkness with zero light. Isn't that the same shit? These two concepts are very different. Wait, pure darkness has zero light. So, or darkness with zero light. What? I assume pure darkness, like you're underground, and then darkness with zero light, you're in like a lit area, but you're just blocked off. What? These two concepts are very different. If it's the latter, you can obtain it in the Spire's underground dungeons. You've been there for some time. You should know what I'm talking about. Derek had a deep fear of the Spire's dungeons because it was there that he first met Blasphemer. I'm sorry. If we meet, I really hope we don't run into Amon while I'm reading these off stream. I should have double checked with you guys. Oh my god. Not only did he see the former captain of the expedition team, but he had even parasitized unless it's necessary. He really didn't wish to recall it. At this moment, after receiving the chief's reminder, he began to slowly jot his memories. He discovered that under the spire, although each cell was given candles, one would have to wait for the guards to deliver food and medicine and ask for more once they finished burning. This didn't happen frequently with it happening only thrice a day, with the gaps in between being very long. And in such an environment, phenomena like the appearance of monsters and vanishing of humans never happened. Okay, so we're good here. We're good in the spire. Derek recalled that he had been in darkness with zero light for some time without encountering any danger. He pondered for a moment and hesitantly said, "The darkness with zero light at the bottom of the spire has external powers involved. It was this power that prevented the darkness from making people disappear or producing monsters." Okay, so there's like something that's negating them. We did hear that in Volume 2. That within the spire, he'd be protected. Yeah. Colin and Ilya looked at the two swords that were hung across like fashion on the wall. He looked up inside. Yes, that's why it's called darkness with zero light, not pure darkness. Derek frowned slightly as he tried to recall. After a few seconds, he said without certainty, if that were the case, the darkness outside the spire basement is in pure darkness as well. And many historical records, the nights before the Dark Ages, didn't make people vanish or produce monsters. Now the darkness must have undergone an abnormal change or had some other forces mixed in to turn dangerous. Not bad for you to make such connections, show that you've improved. Therefore, let me ask you again, do you need pure darkness or darkness with zero light? Colin's light's blue eyes revealed a hint of surprise. Could it be that pure darkness only exists outside the forsaken land of gods? Derek turned gloomy before he pumped himself up. Oh, I'm sorry. So, like, they're able to access darkness outside the Forsaken Lands? Like in the real world? Is that what he's implying? Derek turned gloomy before he pumped himself up. Your Excellency, I'm not too sure either. I'll take time to confirm this. He believed that the experienced and strong Mr. Hagman, Mr. Old, and the other members of the Terror Club could give him a good solution. Colin and Ilya didn't ask further, as he said with a nod, go on then. Once you reach Sequence 5, even if you aren't able to become a demigod for a long period of time, you will have the chance of wielding certain sealed artifacts. Oh, you're going to level up. Backland Hillstonborough Shio changed into a brown jacket and a war cap, pretending to be a very ordinary short man. She had officially taken the commission and had begun tailing and investigating the gentleman named Ernest Bohr. There were also a few other bounty hunters who participated in this mission. Ernest Bohr lifted his top hat and pointed his cane forward as he instructed the carriage driver to St. George Borough. It was in southeast of Backland, separated from Eastborough by the Tussock River. Once he got on his carriage and took his seat, Ernest sniffed. He looked out the window, suddenly grunted. As a sanguine Viscount, how could he not have discovered the clumsy bounty hunters tailing him? Oh, shit, he figured it out. Oh, he figured out that Shio's tailing him. All right, chapter 999 is called Instigation. Okay. Chapter 999 is called Instigation. When Aries left the carriage, the few bounty hunters hidden in the vicinity immediately appeared. Without being stingy about the costs involved, they immediately stopped any rental carriages that passed by. Some memorized the target carriage's traits and attempted to take shortcuts through the cramped, isolated paths that came up to it. Others rode on the bikes that had prepared ahead of time, swerving through the crowds and carriages with their bells ringing. It was very easy for them to keep pace. I thought it said dancing. It does not say dancing. To keep pace. Among them, only Shio was completely composed. She remained in her spot, watching Ernest and her peers leave. Okay? This transportation tool, known as a bicycle, is more useful than I imagined. It is no wonder so many bounty hunters have saved up to buy. I'm sorry, so bounty hunters now use bikes when they tell people? That's actually kind of funny. No wonder they all saved up to buy one. This can save expenses from taking carriages and save time walking. If one often has such trekking missions, then the money saved is enough to buy a brand new bike. The only problem is that this mode of transportation tool has very few models available. All of them have high seats. Shio wasn't. She's too small. Oh, she's too small. Okay, she can't reach. That is unlocking a core memory mind when I couldn't reach the mountain bike. That's funny. At this moment, a tri-carriage drove over from the crossroads and stopped in front of her. Shio happened to be at the station. Are we recording? Yes. We updated? Yes. Glancing at the double-decker at the stop of the iron tracker, Shio took out a few pennies, walked over, and sat down by the window. Such public carriages could seat nearly 50 people with it double decks. It wasn't too crowded, allowing Shio to easily observe the scenery outside. However, she didn't admire the scenery. Her mind was quickly outlined the exact appearance of her target, brown hair, red eyes, pronounced. features a nose bridge that was so high that it looked deformed, an oil painting catalog in hand, with her supernatural senses as a sheriff, as well as the distance between that not being too great. She could vaguely grasp her target's current location and predetermined destination, and therefore she remained very calm and even took out her cap while using the glass one to tidy up her coarse and stubborn blonde hair. After several stations, Seo suddenly got up of the public carriage and came to stop as she alighted. This was the Backland Bridge area. She had sensed the target had already changed directions and was preparing to head towards the bridge. She immediately went on foot, planning to enter another seat at the bed up to board the public carriage that headed for the south bank of the Tusik River. She had good luck with a public carriage driving over just as she arrived at the top. Shio silently exhaled and took out another batch of pennies she had prepared. Her urge to buy a bike strengthened. This tracked carriage was very crowded, but with her domineering aura as an arbiter, she was able to easily pass through the crowds and head up the decker and find a seat. The carriage moved slowly as Shio casually looked out the window, where her gaze suddenly froze. She saw Sherman, who she hadn't been able to find anyway. This young man who thought himself as a woman was carrying a paper bag with a few long loaves of bread and a stack of newspapers as he entered a narrow alley. His brown shoulder-length hair had grown longer, and this gray patterned trouser seemed tighter. Although his figure disappeared almost as quickly as he appeared, making it impossible for the average person to notice, Shio, who was a sheriff, easily made the necessary judgment. Sherman stopped renting this place in Eastboro and moved here. Seeing that Sherman was fine and that she was still tracking her target, she held back her urge to jump out of the carriage to chase after him, to ask him about his recent situation. Sherman carried the paper bag with several long loaves of bread and a stack of papers as he passed through the alley and streets, making a huge detour before entering an apartment building. He followed the cramped stairs to the third story, took out a key, and opened a door to where they lived. He seemed to possess some pretty good anti-tracking skills. With a creak, the door opened and Sherman's eyes lit up. He saw a lady wearing a black dress in front of him. This lady had a sweet, supple face and an impeccable figure. Even while standing at the window and blocking out the sunlight, making herself become cloaked in shadows, she seemed to be glided, making her appear holy and beautiful. "Why are you here?" Sherman stared at her in surprise, but couldn't help but size her up. His unobvious Adam's apple balled up and down as he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The next second, he turned his head and looked to the side as though he didn't dare to look at her head on. Trissy! What the fuck? Trissy? And Sherman? Trissy knows Sherman? Ma'am, Trissy. Sherman stammered a greeting. Trissy slowly smiled as she allowed the poorly lit room to appear to become brighter. Then she asked with a teasing tone, "Why don't you dare to look at me?" "I don't know. I like men. Why do I have the odd thoughts when looking at you?" Sherman continued, looking at the ground to his side as he stammered an answer. Trissy's expression immediately turned mixed before smiling as though nothing had happened. Females can also appreciate the charm of beauty within their gender. She paused for a moment before saying, "I came here today because I have a mission for you. Your original progress has been very fast, leaving me very satisfied, but he's going to become an assassin? What? Leaving me very satisfied, but it seems like it has recently stopped." This was mentioned before, right? That I think Trissy told Sherman, "I can help you become a woman." And he's like, "Okay, I'm game," right? I think that's what happened. Sherman's face immediately wore a look of horror as he subconsciously took a step back. "I don't think there's a need to do such things." Seeing Trissy silent, Sherman gradually, eloquently stringed his words. "I really don't wish to instigate others into stealing, robbing, and murdering." Got it. Yes. She did offer to help him. Yes, I remember that. "That's too evil, too despicable. Even at the very beginning, those people you got me to assassinate seemed a little overboard. Although they had indeed cursed me, beat me, ostracized me, and spread bad rumors about me, using all kinds of means to harm me in exchange for joy, their actions..." What? "In exchange for joy, their actions didn't require them to pay with their lives." Unsurprised, Trissy smiled and said, "That's not what you said back then. You hated them and had wicked feelings for them. Once you obtained beyond her powers, you were so eager to seek revenge on them. I just made a tiny suggestion and you planned several assassination missions." One could say she slightly instigated him. "I always remember how you looked, stained with blood, trembling in excitement and fever." Sherman couldn't help but retreat as he heard that, until he was stopped by the door, which had closed at some point in time. He had covered his face with his hands, shouting, "No. I have nightmares every night, dreaming of them surrounding me, covered in blood." They chased after me, bite me, paw. The paper bag fell to the ground, and the long loaves of bread were scattered. The stack of newspapers happened to drop just by them. This is very normal. Trissy cut off Sherman. This is necessary psychological change for an assassin. Think about it. Didn't you wish to kill them when they were bullying you? Yes. Sherman answered hesitantly. Oh, okay. But it's the truth. Trissy then chuckled. Just treat it as self-defense when being bullied. Thus killing them. Her speech had a natural allure that made one wish to listen and believe. Sherman rapidly calmed down and nodded. From this point of view, it does seem much better. Upon hearing that, Trissy dimples appeared as she tersely added, besides, they weren't your match when they were alive, so what's there to be afraid of when they're dead? Even if they become ghosts or spectators, it's nothing. You just need to seriously complete the ritual and consume one more potion, and then you'll be able to burn all those souls to oblivion. But I can't bear to see people turn ugly, crazy, and evil under my acts of instigation. Sherman still seemed rather unwilling. Trissy indiscriminately curled the ends of her lips as she said with her smile maintained, "Those are evil thoughts they had to begin with. It has nothing to do with you. Even without you, those evil thoughts will erupt at the specific moments and situations. Also, the missions I arranged for you are all related to the gangs. Aren't you most aware of those people are like? Getting them to fracture and kill one another is mercy and kindness? Really? Kindness. Okay. For those people like you and the innocent people of Eastboro. Okay, that's true." Sherman subconsciously widened his mouth, swallowed the words as he was just about to say. He instantly fell silent. Trissy's eyes swept past him and continued with a soothing voice. "You're just one step away from your target. As long as you complete the remaining ritual, you can drink the third potion to completely become a woman. When that happens, you can use the name Sherman that you've already picked for yourself. Shermaine." Oh, instead of Sherman, Shermaine. Ah, Trissy. I see what we did there. Shermaine that you've already picked for yourself. What a nice sounding name. Isn't it? Then you can leave Backland as a woman, heading for the Mid-Sea Shire or Desi Bay, where you can begin a brand new life. You will no longer have anything to do with this place. You will definitely be filled with charm. Many excellent men will court you, and you can choose the one you like the most and are most satisfied with. Walking down the aisle in the cathedral, you will have a bubbly... You will have bubbly kids? No, kids, pregnancy, that's not a good idea. You can bring them up to be healthy children. Nah, that's not a good idea. You can bring them to the Winter County for skiing. Knowing this series, that's kind of scary. You can bring them to Winter County for skiing, Desi Bay for holidays, and the hunting grounds, which are pleasures that only nobles have. Didn't say that you were willing to do anything to regain your true self. Sherman's lips quivered, and after pursuing them tightly for a while, he separated them and said, "Ma'am, Trissy, I understand. I will proceed according to your instructions." After saying all that, he seemed to lose all his strength as he stumbled to the ground. He subconsciously reached out and held on to a coat rack beside him. During this process, his gaze happened to sweep past the stack of newspapers. It had already spread apart, revealing a particular report. Tycoon from Desi, Mr. Dwayne Taunton, showed interest in purchasing the Lorry Steel Company, believing that it has excellent profitability and a promising future. "Sir, are you really planning on buying Larry Way Steel Company?" Uni asked while walking upstairs at 160 Buckland Street. Dwayne Taunton shook his head and smiled. "That's news is just pure fabrication. I've only met the owner of Larry Way Steel Company, Mr. Phil La Riviere, at a ball last week and had to chat." But the side butler Walter heaved a sigh of relief. I have hiccups. Heaved a sigh of relief as he warned, "Sir, the Larry Will Steel Company is indeed seeking a buyer. There are quite a number of people who are considering the operation. This also means that this piece of news was released by the reporters under Phil instructions so that he can sell it at a better price." Klein nodded in thought. He entered the room with half balcony and prepared to head above the great fog. He wanted to use Uni's praying's point of light to see any abnormalities at Hazel's place. This was something that he had been doing daily for the past few days. Oh, so they're still monitoring Hazel's place? Okay. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Chapter 1000, brothers and sisters. I can't believe we made it. I'm a Lord of the Volume on my end. Hold on, give me a sec. I originally went into this series expecting to read like a few chapters. And then that's it. And just watch a Dunkwa. Just watch that. And then just watch it, you know? But here we are. Chapter 1000. I hope you guys are ready. I hope you guys are excited. Because we have finally made it to the big leagues. We are now one step closer to truly finishing this series. As of right now, my progress bar says 71% complete. We are down to the final 29% of this series. I just like we are approaching the. We've read 3/4 of this series. We're literally at the final frontier. We're literally there. Just like one more push, and we're done. So, as I'm saying this and I'm looping this music, I'm gonna go back here. Chapter 1000, Prelude. All right. Sorry. I got a little excited. I had to play the music. All right. Now we'll just play some nice calming music while we get ready. Sorry we're doing this off stream. I just want to take it slow. And I saw Wiz going live. And I don't want you guys to deal with like the double raving. So I was like, you know what? It's cool. We're just going to take it chill, nice and slow today. And then we're going to take this moment, you know, kind of to ourselves and kind of like savor it, you know, that we're doing this off stream. And I'm kind of just like, I'm just reminiscing right now, you know? It's almost been a year since we've been reading this. I know we should have been done by now. I apologize. That's my fault. But, you know, this is my first time reading something this lengthy. But chapter 1000, Prelude, as I'm raising the volume because it is too low on your end. All right. In the grand palace above the gray fog, through Uni's prayer's point of light, Klein saw the scene inside his valet's room. As his vision pulled out and slowly extended out, he began taking in all of Brooklyn Street among buildings covered in fresh flowers and grass. Intis partial trees that shielded the sunlight slowly swept past. There were slow-moving carriages that were elegantly or beautifully adorned, and youth dashes quickly on bikes. Finally, Klein locked onto Unit 39, Member of Parliament Mach residence. He then lowered his field of view and began observing every animal and human to see if there were any black-haired, black-eyes, monocle-wearing man. Few, there's no switching or grafting of fate. Nearly 10 minutes later, Klein heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, a carriage drove in Mach's residence and stopped at their doorstep. A young lady with curly black-green hair and bright dark brown eyes alighted from the carriage. It was none other than Hazel, who had returned home, and she was wearing a dark green dress that didn't expose her shoulders. Her lips were slightly pursed, and she wore a relaxed look with a hint of joy. Upon seeing Hazel in such a state, Klein's heart skipped a beat. This was definitely abnormal. From Klein's point of view, the rat demigod had only two outcomes after meeting Amon's avatar. She either had a trump card and managed to escape successfully at the cost of being heavily injured, or she had turned into a beyonder characteristic to strengthen Amon's avatar, which is most likely, definitely, 100% probably what happened. And regardless of the outcome, there was no way Hazel could find her teacher. She would definitely be in grief and pain, feeling dispirited and sad. So how could she be relaxed and happy? That might lead her to losing control. I feel like we should go check on her. We should give her a courtesy claw. With her taking the risk to head to the manor in the suburbs to inform her teacher, she's not a cold and selfish person. Her present state indicates that she has confirmed that her teacher, that rat demigod, is fine. She has even been rewarded, perhaps obtaining all kinds of knowledge about the supernatural world. This is in conflict with my theory of the rat demigod's outcome. No, it's not in conflict. Once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. Klein leaned back into seat and came to a conclusion. Amon had not only obtained the rat demigod's beyond her characteristic, but he had also stolen her fate and had replaced her identity. Oh, you're right. You become them, technically. Like, everybody thinks they are you. So right now, her teacher is actually Amon. Okay, yeah, okay, hold up. Yes, he replaced her identity. Therefore, to Hazel, her teacher hadn't encountered any mishaps and would only need a period of time to lie low. After making the confirmation, Klein silently exhaled and felt a little relaxed. To him, the most terrifying aspect of Amon was that no one knew what form of identity he would use to appear. It could be possibly that the member Parliament Mach was one day to wear a monocle, or that insects in the garden would turn around with monocles under fate. Therefore, after grasping the identity Amon might use to appear, Klein couldn't help but feel more assured. As for Amon's performance being problematic in front of Hazel, Klein believed that it was impossible. After all, Amon was a king of angels that was fundamentally good at deceit. Even if he mentioned something that differed from what the rat demigod had said, he could easily use the excuse of it being a test with what he now said being part of her formal education to fool her. Okay, who's the fool here in this picture, Amon or Klein? I think he's being a good fool here. Of course, based on Palazzo's depiction, Amon definitely wouldn't appear as a rat demigod, so I shouldn't be too careless. Klein did some observations before retracting his gaze and leaving the gray fog. Inside his room, he sat on a reclining chair and drank some black tea with a lemon slice. He half closed his eyes and considered how he could deadpan his relationship with Conus Kilgore. After an unknown period of time, Klein suddenly opened his eyes and activated his spirit vision. At the demigod level, he could already activate it at will. Almost at the same moment, Renette Tanker walked out of the void with four blonde, red-eyed red-eyed heads and hands. One of them had a letter in its mouth. Whose letter is it? Klein asked as he reached out of his right hand. Sharon. Renette Tanker's other hand answered. Miss Sharon, she should be making her final preparations for the advancement. Why was she suddenly write to me? Klein was slightly puzzled as he received an envelope. After he opened it, he found very little content. This was only a simple line. Emlyn White is seeking out the Rose School of Thought. Emlyn is seeking out the Rose School of Thought. Klein pricked up his brows in surprise. His opinions of Emlyn was a sanguine who was afraid of trouble. Unless necessary, he didn't even wish to head out. So how could he actively search for the Rose School of Thought? This definitely isn't Emlyn's own will. Yes, Emlyn had mentioned that some important figure of the sanguine was meeting him. This is a new mission the sanguine gave him. It's very reasonable. However, why didn't he mention it in a terror club? Oh, it was focused on the punishment operation as he had other clues, so he temporarily kept it from us. Klein thought as he leaned forward. Under the watch of Miss Messenger's 8 eyes, he took out a piece of paper and a fountain pen from his coffee table. He wasn't curious about Emlyn's clues because it was an obvious matter. Since Miss Sharon knew that Emlyn was seeking out the Rose School of Thought and he asked their mutual friend, Detective Sherlock Moriarty, about this matter, it meant that the sanguine had likely asked that help of the black market arms dealer Ian from the Bravehearts bar. This also meant that in Emlyn's previous commissions, he must have noticed Sharon or Merrick, otherwise it was impossible for him to mention the Rose School of Thought to an ordinary person. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I don't know enough about the apocryphy pathway. I can't determine how Emlyn discovered a ray for a zombie. Klein crossed his right leg and he placed the letter on his thigh and began scribing. This is likely a mission the sanguine's upper echelons gave Emlyn. They hate the Rose School of Thought. Rose School of Thought members who believe in the primordial moon, and they have directed this anger and other faction of the Rose School of Thought. Upon writing this, Klein paused and added, I suspect that the Mother Tree of Desire had the intention of encroaching onto the authority of the Moon Domain, but I am unsure why the primordial moon believers would join the Rose School of Thought. This secret existence seems to have a very complicated relationship with the Mother Tree of Desire. They are at odds, but they have cooperated. It's hard to tell. Putting down his pen and folding the letter, Klein looked at Miss Messenger, who had been waiting. He asked Ritordo, how did you know that I'll be replying? One of Renette Tanker's heads succinctly answered, Inkling. Right on the heels of that, the four blonde red eyes heads spoke one after another. You seem a little livelier recently. Your expression has also become much richer. As Klein pulled out of the box that was connected to his golden pocket watch, he took out a gold coin from it and said with a self-deprecating smile, repeatedly wearing a thick mask isn't good for one's mental health. Good for him. I realized that after becoming a demigod. Therefore, unless he was in a situation where he needed to disguise or hide his feelings, he limited the use of the clown's powers to control the emotions. Renette Tanker didn't say a word as the heads bit onto the gold coin and letter before vanishing. Watching Miss Messenger leave, Klein leaned back slightly, inwardly muttered, I wonder if Miss Sharon and Merrick will use the sanguine to deal with the Rose School of Thought members in Backland. Miss Sharon is probably focusing her time and efforts on her advancement. She might not involve herself, but I can't be sure about Merrick. Emlyn changed into his Church of Earth Mother priest robes and then wore a red coat and a silk hat before walking out of the Harvest Church. He then got into a rental carriage by the roadside. After saying his destination, he casually cast his gaze out the window. At this moment, Emlyn sensed something as he abruptly moved his body, leaving shadowedly after images in his wake as he moved to the side. Then he saw a figure appear out of nowhere. It was a young man whose coat wasn't buttoned, revealing the white shirt on the black vest within. His brown hair was a little moist and messy, though he hadn't combed it in a while. Merrick? His brown eyes were filled with temperance, as though he was restraining certain urges deep within his heart. No, it's not Merrick. Upon seeing this pale, corpse-like face, Emlyn tipped his chin and said with a smile, showing no signs of nervousness, You have finally come. Aren't you afraid that I'm a member of the Rose School of Thought that's here to finish you off? The young man's figure turned somewhat transparent. Emlyn scoffed and said, Why would I not be aware of the Rose School of Thought's history or matters about the betrayal of the Temperance faction and their escape? Well, how do I address you? Merrick, the young man replied. Oh my god, dude. The young man replied, Is this the information you received from the upper echelons of the sanguine? Emlyn was taken aback as he hissed, You are smarter than I thought. He used such a remark to confirm the other party's guess. Merrick slowly drew a breath and leaned forward slightly. How did you notice our existence from Ian's side? Emlyn leisurely leaned back into his carriage and said with a smile, Humans have the smell of humans, wraiths have the smell of wraiths. Merrick fell silent for a few seconds before asking, You sanguine wish to deal with the Rose School of Thought members in Backland? Yes, maybe. The important members, Emlyn replied by making an emphasis. If that's the case, we can use ourselves as bait to help you finish the Rose School of Thought members. However, I need confirmation. Merrick rubbed his eyes and said directly, I know you aren't able to make a decision. You can first return to seek permission from the sanguine. After you obtain the assurance, you know where to find us. Having said that, he had it he handed a doister in his hand. This is from Ian. It's the initial feedback tracking from Ernie's board. Many bounty hunters have completed this together and received a doister and nodded in a rare look of solemnity. Okay. And you know what? I think I'm going to stop it there. Just 4 chapters. I like that we stopped at 1,000. I think I'm going to leave it here. Yeah, we're just going to leave it here. And then later tonight, I do an unannounced stream. I mean, I don't know, man. I got to go work out since I missed it in the morning. So we got to get it out the way today. And I got to eat. So I got to eat, cook. And then when we come back, we'll see how we're doing. It might be an unannounced stream, or we will wait until tomorrow. I mean, depending by the time this video goes up, less than 12 hours, give or take, roughly. So, you know, we'll be streaming on August 20th, put it that way. If we're not streaming later tonight on the 19th, we'll be streaming on the 20th by the time this video is up. It should be up quickly, since we just published the last video like an hour or 2 ago. But I had fun. It's weird, I'll be honest. It's weird doing this off stream. You don't even know, man. But I had to pause the video and I had to step outside for like 15 minutes. You guys would have been said I was stalling, but I literally just had to step out for like 15 minutes and I'm back. That was coincidentally fitting, you know, that we did this off stream, that I was able to do that. But you know what? We'll be back tomorrow, August 20th. So peace. Have a beautiful day. And I'm going to see you guys all tomorrow. Or maybe later tonight. We'll find out. All right. Later, guys.